In May of 2016, at over 8,000 meters above sea level, the air is so thin it feels like breathing through a straw. Every step takes effort. Every thought feels heavy. And for one Australian woman, this was the moment she had dreamed of for years. To stand on top of the world and prove something much larger than herself. She wanted to show that vegans can climb Everest, that the strength doesn't come from what you eat, but from what drives you. But on Everest, the mountain doesn't care about your beliefs or your dreams, because here, the air itself becomes your enemy. She wanted to prove that vegans could climb Mount Everest, but it ended tragically. Her name was Dr. Maria Strydom, a 34-year-old finance lecturer from Melbourne. Brilliant, disciplined, driven. In the classroom, she studied risk and statistics. Outside of it, she chased danger. She wasn't alone. Her husband, Dr. Robert Gropel, a veterinarian, shared her love for mountains and animals. They were partners in everything, in life, in climbing, and in belief. Both were strict vegans and proud of it. Maria was tired of hearing people question her health, her strength, her diet. So she wanted to prove something. People have this warped idea of vegans being weak, she said. We want to show that vegans can do anything and more. That mission would lead them to the deadliest place on Earth. Maria and Robert weren't beginners. Over 8 years, they had climbed some of the world's tallest peaks: Denali, Kilimanjaro, Aconcagua, Mount Ararat. Now they were chasing the 7 summits, the highest mountain on every continent. And the final test was Everest. They joined a 10-person expedition led by Dutch climber Arnold Koster. The climb would take weeks of slow acclimatization, moving up and down the mountain to prepare their bodies for the thin air. Maria knew the risks. She even spoke publicly about them before leaving Australia, warning that inexperienced climbers blocking routes could cause deadly delays. It was almost prophetic, because that's exactly what would happen. By mid-May, they had reached Camp 4 at 8,000 meters, the death zone. Up here, human life can't last long. Your body is slowly dying with every breath, but they were ready, or so they thought. On May 19th at night, the team made their final push to the summit. The wind was calm, the sky clear. It was the perfect window. But only a few hours into the climb, Maria began to feel the weight of the altitude. Her legs felt heavy, her breathing shallow. By morning, near the south summit, just 15 minutes from the top, she made a decision. She turned to her husband and said, "You go on, I'll wait for you here." It was a moment of courage and trust. Robert hesitated, but she insisted. He continued toward the peak, reached the summit, and realized it meant nothing without her. It wasn't special, he later said. I just wanted to get back to her. When Robert returned, something was wrong. Maria was struggling to speak. Her words came out jumbled, her steps unsteady. He assumed she was just exhausted, not realizing it was something far worse. She was suffering from high-altitude cerebral edema, HACE, swelling of the brain caused by lack of oxygen. It's silent, fast, and deadly. Robert gave her a dexamethasone injection, a steroid meant to reduce swelling, and shared his oxygen with her. For a moment, she improved. They made it down to the South Col, set up camp, and rested. Robert thought the worst was over. But HACE doesn't just go away. The medicine only masks it, like covering a wound without treating it. The next morning, as they tried to descend further, Maria collapsed near a narrow ridge called the Geneva Spur. Robert tried to revive her. He shouted for help, but the radio was silent. The Sherpas were exhausted, and the air was poison. In the frozen quiet of the death zone, Maria Strydom died in her husband's arms. She had been without supplemental oxygen for nearly 20 hours. Robert somehow survived the descent. He too was suffering from fluid in his lungs, high-altitude pulmonary edema. When rescuers found him, he could barely breathe. He was airlifted to Kathmandu and hospitalized. When he woke up, Maria was gone. "I'm her husband," he said later. "It's my job to protect her and get her home, and I failed." Back home in Australia, Maria's family learned of her death not from the expedition company, but by reading the news online. Her sister, Aletta, found the headline before anyone called. The family was devastated and furious. 7 Summit Treks, the organizer, claimed they didn't have the family's contact details. But the truth was simpler. Communication on Everest is chaotic, and media coverage moves faster than grief. Most climbers who die above 8,000 meters are left there forever. The cost and risk of retrieval is immense. But Robert couldn't accept that. He made a vow: "I'm not leaving Nepal without my wife." A week later, a specialized team returned to the mountain. They found Maria's body near the Geneva Spur, where she had fallen. By May 28th, her body was airlifted to Kathmandu, and a few days later, she was brought home to Melbourne. When the story broke, the world took notice. But not for the reasons Maria would have hoped. Headlines around the world read, "Woman trying to prove vegans can do anything dies on Everest." Her ideology, the belief she carried with pride, became the hook that overshadowed everything else. The media turned her into a tragic irony, but that irony was false. Maria didn't die because she was vegan. She died because Everest kills even the strongest. On that same day, another climber, Dutch mountaineer Eric Arnold, died of altitude sickness too. He wasn't vegan, he was just human. Maria Strydom's story isn't about weakness. It's about how ambition, belief, and love can drive us to breathtaking heights, but also blind us to how fragile we are. She was a woman who taught risk analysis for a living, yet even she believed she was prepared enough to escape the odds. Her sister later said, "We saw that only 3% of people die on Everest, but you never think you'll be that 3%. That's the paradox of Everest. Everyone knows the danger, but no one thinks the mountain will choose them. In the end, Maria reached her limit, not of strength, but of oxygen, time, and chance. Her story is not about irony, but about humanity, about the line between proving something to the world and proving something to yourself. Everest doesn't test your diet, your beliefs, or your willpower. It tests your humility. And on that mountain, humility is the only thing that keeps you alive. She climbed to inspire others, and in the end, she proved something far deeper, that belief can take us to impossible heights, but nature always has the final word.